Hello, listeners. My name is Jason Knight, president and founder of Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies and host of this, the sos-radio.com podcast, all paranormal, all the time. With me today are my fellow SOSers and brothers in arms, Mr. Dave Black, Supernatural Occurrence Studies co-founder, theorist, and medium. We have our producer, Oscar Spector, and of course none other than Mr. Joe Erie, theorist, medium, musician, my son's godfather, and one of my best friends. Today, on the sos-radio.com podcast, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite locations, Robison Woods Indian Burial Ground. Now, I encourage you, as we're talking about Robison Woods, go to the sos-radio.com website and click on photos and videos and check out some of the pictures that coincide with this story so you kind of follow along and see what we've been experiencing at this very paranormal hotspot in Chicago. Now, Robison Woods isn't your typical haunted location. You know, there's no windows to pry open or fences to jump. It's not an ancient cemetery or abandoned hospital. It's right smack in the middle of a residential neighborhood passed by hundreds of motorists each day. Robison Woods, less commonly known as Chief Chichi-Pinquay Woods, rests on the northwest corner of Lawrence Avenue and East River Road on the far northwest side of Chicago, just outside Norridge, Illinois. I'd argue to death that this location exudes more haunted symptoms than even Bachelor's Grove Cemetery on the south side, on the city's south side, far south side. From East River Road, if you're driving down East River Road near Robison Woods, a short 50 yards into Robison Woods, you can see a large quartzite boulder, which marks the final resting spot of a famous Indian chief and his immediate family, some of his immediate family. Many people forget that even though this is a busy residential area, that 200 plus years ago, this expansive forest preserves was home to Native Americans, namely the Potawatomi, Ottawa, and Chippewa Indians. Right there they lived and died, hunted and fished for generations. Now, Chief Alexander Robinson, also known as Chief Chichi-Pinquay, or Winking Eye, was chief of the three combined tribes. And he was awarded this huge plot of land, something like 2,000 acres, including what is now Robison Woods, what we're talking about today, for his heroics during the Fort Dearborn Massacre of 1812, which took place in Chicago. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but the actual Fort Dearborn itself, the wooden structured Fort Dearborn itself, stood at what is now Wacker and Michigan Avenue in the Chicago Loop. Did you imagine? But anyway, as it was, during that time, most Potawatomi, they sided with the British during the War of 1812. And when federal troops fled Fort Dearborn, hostile Potawatomi Indians raided that fort, and they slaughtered approximately 50 Americans, including women and children. Now, during that slaughter, Alexander Robinson, a friendly chief, friendly to the United States, helped rescue prominent settlers, John Kinsey and Captain and Mrs. Held, from certain death at the hands of the Potawatomi, and Robinson shuttled them off safely to Fort Mackinac on Mackinac Island, Michigan. Now, that quartzite boulder, the one that marks Chief Alexander Robinson's final resting place, it states the following. I wrote it down. Alexander Robinson, Chief Chichi-Pinquay, chief of the Potawatomi, Chippewa, and Ottawa Indians, who died April 22nd, 1872. Catherine Chevalier, his wife, who died August 7th, 1860, and other members of their family are buried on this spot. Part of the reservation granted him, Chief Chichi-Pinquay, Alexander Robinson, by the Treaty of Prairie du Chien, July 29th, 1829, in gratitude for his aid to the family of John Kinsey and Captain and Mrs. Held, prominent European settlers at the time of the Fort Dearborn Massacre. So because of the Treaty of Prairie du Chien, Robison Wood was granted this land. He was also the fifth richest man in Cook County at the time. Apparently, according to history, he opened Chicago's first tavern and was rumored to be friends with President Lincoln himself. So Chief Alexander Robinson was no dummy. He was a businessman. He was a hero. He was a friend to presidents, and he was awarded this plot of land that is now Robison Woods because of his heroic actions during the Fort Dearborn Massacre. So, at the end of the day, why do we care about all this history? Who cares about some Indian chief from however many years ago and what he did? Who cares about who he was and why he died? What he did? But I'll tell you why. Because Robison Woods is severely haunted. We don't need to hop a fence or pry open ancient doors or windows or sneak into an abandoned hospital or cemetery like I mentioned earlier. 50 yards from civilization while watching cars whip by on East River Road, we, SOS, members of SOS, have experienced and photographed trace energy, what we refer to as ghosts, trace energy, the stuff ghosts are made of. We've heard disembodied voices. We've seen phantom lights, smelled phantom smells, and ran away from mysterious shadows. It really is incredible, and I'd argue that Robison Woods is the state's most haunted location, if not the most haunted location in the Midwest. But the question is, why is Robison Woods so haunted? Why? Well, some say that because Robison Woods lies directly under an O'Hare Airport flight path, that the woods are constantly rumbling from airplane traffic. Some say that nothing, living or dead, could be at rest there. That's one reason why Robison Woods may be so haunted. Others believe that because not all of Chief Robinson's family are buried with him at Robison Woods, that an angry Chief Robinson haunts the area. In 1973, a Robinson descendant named Herbert Butcher died and was refused burial on his ancestors' plot of land due to what Cook County called sanitary reasons. Now, here's the thing. When Robinson was awarded that land by the Treaty of Prairie du Chien on July 29, 1829, our 10th U.S. President, John Tyler, granted Robinson the land in lifetime annuity, which means the land was to remain in Robinson's family, quote, I quote, forever, and no one could lease or sell the land without permission of the President of the United States, end quote. So this land was to remain in Robinson's lineage forever, unless otherwise stated by a U.S. president. Now, Robinson descendants lived on the land all the way up to the mid-1950s. In the mid-1950s, there was a last holdout, a granddaughter, however many greats she was, great-great-great-granddaughter, lived in a home on the land and refused to leave. And in the spring of 1955, her house mysteriously burnt down, and I'm doing air quotes, mysteriously burnt down. It wasn't a secret that Cook County wanted that land. They wanted that land for themselves to do with it what they want. It was a big expanse of land. Now you had this granddaughter living on the land, refusing to give up the land, refusing to move, and then all of a sudden, mysteriously, her house burns down. All records indicate that the granddaughter did not die in the fire, but a short while later, the land was condemned without president approval. And shortly after the condemnation of the land that was once Robinson's was annexed to Cook County and is now part of the Cook County Forest Preserve as we see it today. And so we got a few things going on here. It's no secret Cook County wanted the land. The last remaining holdout, the granddaughter, was living there and refused to sell. Good old Chicago tactics came into play and the house burnt down. And soon after, the land was condemned and annexed, a.k.a. stolen. Flash forward to 1973, a Robinson family member dies and is refused burial on his family's land. Is it any wonder Alexander Robinson is pissed and unable to rest? Family home burnt down, land stolen, future generations being refused burial on what is his land. No wonder the guy's pissed. No wonder he's haunting the grounds. Of course, it's a long-held belief that natives buried their dead in locations where they felt the fabric between this world and the spirit world are the thinnest. allowing the deceased to pass over easily. I'm sure you've heard this before. But is it so hard to believe that if it's easy to go one way, it's also easy to go the other way, and spirits are crossing over into our world whenever they please at this location? Or maybe some of the energies there have nothing to do with the natives buried there at all. Maybe it has everything to do with the horrific crime that took place within the Robison Wood confines. On October 18th, 1955, the bodies of 3 children, brothers Anton and John Schussler, 11 and 13 years old, and their friend Robert Peterson, 14 years old, were found not too far from the Robinson marker, that quartzite marker. They were found naked, severely beaten, molested, strangled. The incident made world news, and it violently ripped America from the innocence it had been enjoying for the last 10 years since the end of World War II. For 40 years, those murders were a cold case. Many people were questioned, but no one was ever brought to justice. But then in 1994, a guy named Kenneth Hansen, while under investigation for his involvement in the disappearance of a candy heiress, Helen Voorhees Brock, the Brock candy heiress, details emerged connecting this two-time loser, Ken Hansen, who was a known pedophile, with the child murders, with the Peterson-Schussler murders. Now, according to investigators, Hansen picked up the boys while hitchhiking and brought them to what was then the Idle Hour stable, where he worked in Park Ridge, Illinois, not very far from Robison Woods. Maybe 10-minute drive, 15-minute drive. When Hansen was finished ravishing the boys, he dumped the bodies at Robison Woods. Again, this murder went unsolved for nearly 40 years, but in 1995, a jury found this loser, Kenneth Hansen, guilty of murdering Robert Peterson and Anton and John Schussler, and was sentenced to 200 to 300 years in prison. Shockingly, in 2000, Kenneth Hansen's conviction was overturned due to the use of non-credible witnesses and improper testimony during the trial. A retrial was set, and in 2002, despite the best efforts to clear Hansen's name of the murder charges, the ruling held. And on September 12, 2007, he died at the age of 74 while serving his life plus sentence at Pontiac Correctional Center in Pontiac, Illinois. But up until the end, Hansen claimed his innocence, swore his innocence. Now recently, within the last 5 years or so, it's come to light that a man by the name of Jack Relling might have been the actual murderer. Some claim that tissue samples found in Relling's car matched samples taken from the children. He died in 1980. Other people believe that a notorious horse wrangler by the name of Silas Jane, also went by just Cy, played a strong hand in the boys' murders. Silas died in 1987, without officially being named a suspect. So the question must be asked, was the real murderer brought to justice? If not, and the crime is still technically unsolved, there are 3 little lost spirits still awaiting justice. So what is exactly causing the haunting at Robison Woods? Is it simply the airplane traffic refusing to let anything lie dormant within Robison Woods? Is it the scandalous nature under which the property was stolen from Alexander Robinson's descendants without presidential decree? Does it have something to do with the Peterson-Schussler murders? Maybe they're still unsolved. Well, whatever the reason, Robison Woods Indian Burial Ground is a hotbed of paranormal activity. Again, I encourage you to go to sos-radio.com and check out the photographs and see for yourself. There's even a photo of what looks like a gray alien that we photographed at Robison Woods. Yes, I said it, gray alien. Picture that in your head, what that looks like. Then go over to sos-radio.com and see for yourself. And don't ask me because I have no idea what that has to do with. Maybe you guys have some idea.
Well, it was certainly the first place that we went to that fateful night when we were talking around your kitchen table, and we're like, hey, instead of talking about it, let's go out and do it. And when we went to the Jewel Osco, I bought a $35 piece of crap 35 millimeter camera.
Disposable camera.
It wasn't a disposable.
Oh,
it was like the ones that you buy.
It just felt disposable.
It's like comes in that like bubble package. It's like on the hooks on the display on the wall.
Clamshell.
Yeah, and it was like, I remember it being $35. It was like $34.99. We bought a roll of Fujifilm, or like a 4-pack of Fujifilm, and we went over there, and it wasn't even like there was no battery. I think it had batteries for a flash, but it didn't it was like a wind up thing. So you'd like click, 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 and so we went over there and just started taking photographs, and just snapping pictures randomly as we went. And it was like a fixed focus camera, which I eventually found is the best type of camera to do this. You don't want anything with a zoom on it. You want something with just a fixed focus lens. And I remember that night in particular getting some weird vibes and stuff, and feeling what I would later realize was actually running into the energy. But that particular night, we just took a bunch of pictures, and that was it. Went and got the film developed. I forget where I got it developed at first, but and I think I specifically chose like the smaller, because you had like the 3x5 or the 4x6 option, and I'm like, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on this. And
we were young. We didn't have a lot of money then.
It's our first.
So I think we only did one roll that night, maybe two. But when I got the pictures back, I was going through them, and they were all like overexposed and washed out and shitty looking. But in one particular picture, there was this fogginess in the corner of the picture that we weren't smoking. It wasn't smoke, and it wasn't breath. So what was this picture? There it is. It's the, what is that?
We're looking at sos-radio.com
I was just about to say that.
now. In the photos video section.
It's the fourth picture down in the far left column. So fourth picture down.
There it is.
There, that one.
So I remember so you got the film developed, I want to say it was like at a Jewel Osco.
Yeah, I think it was at the same
developing.
Jewel Osco that I got the camera at.
I remember getting the phone call at work. You went ahead, you sprung and paid for the development of this film.
Yeah.
Again, we were young, we were broke.
We still haven't paid you back, by the way.
I think I still owe you money for that one 20 years later. But I remember getting the call at work. I worked at a restaurant, a spaghetti warehouse in Elk Grove Village, Illinois. And I remember my manager coming to me that night, middle of my shift, and he said, there's somebody in panic on the phone, needs to talk to you. And the first thing I thought was, something's wrong at home. Something's wrong with my family. Who died, right? Yeah. Every time you get a panic phone call, especially at work, there's a problem. But it was you. It was you on the phone, and you were speaking in half sentences. You were speaking fast. Jay, I got the film. It was clear that night. There was no fog, but I got this thing. And that picture, Robison Woods Indian Burial Ground, fourth one down, left-hand corner, that was our first picture.
Yeah,
and we're looking at it right now.
It kind of looks like a deer or a horse.
Or someone winking.
A lot of people see a face in it, too.
A face winking, which is very interesting because Alexander Robinson, his native name was Chief Chichipinque, which stands for winking eye. And this photo looks like someone almost with a winking, he's winking an eye. It's really, so I remember that phone call. And that's what kicked it off. That's what started, basically, Chicago's own supernatural occurrence studies. And you also discovered your mediumship abilities at Robison Woods.
Yeah, and it was the very next. I think this was. I want to say. I can't remember what the dates were. I'd have to look up the dates, but I specifically remember. Do we have a date? Do you have a date on that picture or no?
I don't.
Okay. Well,
We're young after all.
I want to say that it wasn't the, because we went there, we took the pictures. The next day I dropped off the film, or it might have been the same night. And I remember it was a full 2 days since we had been there when we went back. And it was the day that I got the film developed. We were like, we need to go back. And do you remember if it was that night or was it the following night?
It wasn't that night.
Okay, so it was the following night. We went back and with the same camera, with more film, taking pictures, snap, 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 snap. And I specifically remember the one roll of film, for some reason, only 7 or 8 pictures came out on that roll. But every single picture had this stuff in it. And it was at that point that I kept getting this weird vibe. And I said, I feel weird, take pictures of me. And I handed you the camera to start taking pictures of me. And when we got those pictures back, it was...
with ectoplasmic mist,
yeah,
and
with the trace energy here.
Now,
we have a number of them at the website.
I remember specifically my friend Jay Schultes. You remember John Schultes?
I do.
He lives in Milwaukee now, but he worked at a Wolf Camera. I knew him from some improv stuff I had been doing because I was just getting into stand-up comedy at that time too. And so I took all the film that we developed to John because once again we were broke. He worked at Wolf Camera. He had the hookup for us. So he brought me those photos that he developed for me to my open mic at Morseland Music Room,
which we'll get to in another podcast.
And this was just it was I want to say it was about a week later because it had been a few days. And it took him time to develop them and stuff. But he met me there and gave me these 2 packs of film that he had developed. Most of them had nothing on it, but 7 of those pictures from that one particular roll. The first thing I see is go back to the main screen so I can.
So we're at sos-radio.com on videos, photos, videos.
Scroll up. I want to see if I can see the pictures on there that are the first pictures we took. I don't think you have those ones on there. But anyways, so the first thing that I see is a puff of smoke hanging in front of a tree right behind the stone. The very next picture that was taken at it shows the same puff of mist or smoke that had now moved further over to the right of the frame. So at this point, it was confirmed for me that this was something. Because that one picture with the thing in the corner, like, I wanted to believe it was something, but I wasn't entirely convinced. I was like, Because I remember saying, like, well, let's think of all the possibilities. Could it be breath? Could it be, car exhaust or whatever? So when I saw that same stuff in the tree, it was kind of like this heart-sinking, like, my life changed in that second that I saw that picture. Because it was then that I knew that this was real. That this wasn't me hoping it was real. This wasn't my mind playing tricks on me. This wasn't me, making a mountain out of a molehill. This was a real thing. The next picture, it was like, like I remember audibly gasping when I saw it. And I was taken aback by that because there was a second picture of the same thing. And these 2 pictures were taken in quick succession, so you could see that it was there and it was moving. Then next picture, nothing. Next picture, nothing. Next picture, me standing there, surrounded by it, with like what looked like skulls and stuff looking at me. And at this point, I'm freaking out. I'm in this bar at this comedy show, open mic, ready to go up on stage in a few minutes, and I'm looking at these pictures, and I'm absolutely flipping my shit out. Just going, oh my God, this is real. This is real. This is a real thing. This is really happening. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy, and I'm going around and I'm showing people. I'm like, you don't know, this is a real thing. And they're like, I don't, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what's your deal?
So listeners, just so you know, photos video page, sos-radio.com, third row down, fourth on the right, Robison Woods, Indian Burial Ground. This is the one that says at the end of the description, a skull is commonly seen looming on Dave's upper right-hand side. This is the photograph that he's referencing in this story.
It's actually technically my left-hand side. My left in the
left-hand
picture,
side, right.
Right of the picture, left of me in the picture.
Thank you. But this is the photo he's referencing.
So that picture and another one where it was around me. So at this point, I'm like, oh, you know, this is like a life-changing. That's from a different night, but this was like a life-changing thing. This was like, I can't believe that this is real, and it's in front of us, and we have evidence of it, and it's a thing, and it's real. Like, and I'm trying to explain to people. Like, now, granted, I'd been doing stand-up comedy for like a month or a month and a half, so all these people are looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. So the bartender, who was actually the owner of the bar, she's like, "What is your deal? What are you flipping out about?" And I go up to the bar and I slap all the pictures down and I start like sorting through them. I'm like, "This is a thing, and this is a thing, and I don't know, like this is crazy." And I felt this. I knew it was around me, and that's why I told them to take a picture of me. And there it is. It's a real thing. It's happening. It's real. And she's like, "Yeah, this place is haunted." Like, just like it didn't even, like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, like, this place is haunted.
Which this is the Morrison Music Room, which also turns into a fascinating case for SOS.
Because I remember, before she told me that, when I saw these pictures, I told everyone, I was all crazy about it, and I remember it was, like, literally my time, like, 5 minutes after I got these photographs, it was my time to go up on stage. Now, I was telling John, who brought me the pictures, I was showing him these pictures all excitedly and stuff. He's the one who developed them, and he's like, yeah, well, all right.
Kind of speaks for
and I'm asking him, I'm like grabbing him by the shirt, and I'm like, could this be a photographic error? Could this be something that's on the film? He's like, no, this is definitely something, like, this isn't a chemical error or anything like that. This is something that's in the picture.
Something was burned onto that negative.
Yeah. So I'm like shaking. I'm shaking, and I'm tearing up, and I'm shaking. And then it's like, okay, it's time to go on stage. So I got up on stage, and I did my act. I did my material, like my 3 or 4 minutes of material, and like it was. I didn't say anything about it. I just went up there. I did my material. I did well. Got off stage, ran upstairs, and called you on that payphone in that hallway.
I remember the payphone turns into a good story actually later on.
So I'm calling you. I don't remember if you answered the phone. Do you remember answering the phone when I got those pictures and I was freaking out about them?
That was when I was at work. You called my work.
Yeah,
my manager answered the phone.
Okay, so that was
me, and I thought someone died in my family.
Okay, that was the time that I called you then.
Yes.
Okay, because I remember, like, when I got the original picture back from the Jewel Osco, I remember telling you about it in a much less excitable way.
Oh no, this was excitable.
The first picture. So the story you told about me calling you on the phone, that was for these pictures.
Yes.
But the first picture, when I called you, it was much more like, yeah, there's this weird thing on the picture. It might be something. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I was doubting it. I was skeptical. And that's why we went back. And those pictures, I'm freaking out about them. And while I'm standing in this hallway talking to you on the phone, I start getting the weird vibe in the hallway. And I'm like, what's going on here now? And it was like, I don't even, like, like when you're watching a movie and somebody has a realization and, like, the camera, like, zooms in on them.
Yeah.
Like, and it looks like everything's, like, coming in around them.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It was like this, like, weird, like, you can almost hear the Dolby surround sound, like, like that. Like, if you could visualize that sound being a realization, that's what I was experiencing.
Sponsored it was like by Dolby.
It was like this everything came into focus for me and narrowed in on me, and it was like this light bulb over my head. So I go downstairs after I talk to you on the phone, and I'm flipped, and I want to tell everyone about it. I want to tell everybody, anyone that'll listen. I want to tell them about it. And the bartender, Bridget Dugan, the owner of the Morseland Music Room, with her brother Mike, I believe his name was. She's like, "What's your deal? What's the deal?" And I lay the pictures out, and I'm showing her, and she's like, "Yeah, this place is haunted." And I'm like, "That's why I felt something upstairs." And so immediately I'm like, "Can we investigate this place? Can we check it out? Can we, we're really excited about it." And she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I went back upstairs. Now the downstairs area, it was you walk in the room, and the room's kind of divided in two because there's a stairwell that goes to the upstairs from the outside that kind of divides the room with a wall. So you walk in, and there's a bar. And then it's kind of, the room is horseshoe shaped, sort of, and you walk around to the other side of the room, and that's where the stage is and stuff. And so I went upstairs, and upstairs was there was a game room with pool tables. There was jukebox and all that.
Bar.
And then a little party bar up there, and a separate sitting room where you can just hang out and chill.
Are we getting into the Morseland Music Room story?
Maybe.
Because I think this is worth its own podcast.
Yeah, I know.
We got to bring this back around to Robison Woods.
Anyways, so
because this is a very good case, but I think it deserves its own podcast.
Right. It certainly does, because, and we will get back to that. But this was the birth of everything that we did. This was a pinnacle point in my life. This was like a turning point in my lifetime that I'm going to say that was my big religious experience, if that makes sense. Some people that have found religion, they'll tell you that one point in life or whatever that they realized God was real or whatever. This, for lack of a better term, this is when I realized that everyone that thinks they know what is happening is full of shit. This was the point that I realized that everything that we know and think we know is absolute bullshit. Because this is something that is happening in front of us that we went out and proved, being nobodies, being just kids with a shitty $35 camera, for ourselves at least, that this is a real thing, that this really exists, that it surrounds us, it's all around us, it's with us every single day. And nobody in the history of mankind has ever been able to explain it, describe it, put it on paper, scientifically prove it, nothing. But it's there, and it's something that we can't understand. And I don't think we ever will understand it. I don't think there's a way to understand it. And it made me realize that there are just some things in life, about existence, about us being here, that are not meant to be understood. We are mere animals. We are just everything that we believe and think is horseshit because we set the terms. We make our own reality. We describe what is real and what is not. The entire concept of beginning and end doesn't exist in nature. There's nothing in nature that started from anything. Every single thing that exists in this world, in this universe, had to come from something before it.
Infinity.
And all of that came to me in that one moment of seeing that picture of that stuff surrounding me.
At Robison Woods in Danbury.
That made me realize that this was real. And it's not just my imagination.
It's not.
It's really out there. It really is out there. And it was a turning point in my life where it made me realize that everything that we know, everything that we think we know, we have to question, because none of it is none of it be real. Some of it, it might peak. Everything about our perception of reality could be complete horseshit. We could all be in the Matrix goo right now, for all we know. But it really did change my perspective on a lot of things in life, and it cemented my long-held belief that kind of religion and God and all that stuff was man-made nonsense to explain what we didn't know. Because what that moment in time taught me was that we don't know shit, and we never can know shit. So by putting our finger on something and saying this is the way it is, and this is how it is, and this is why we're here, it's insane, because there's no way to know. If somebody came back from the dead and told me, like, this is, I know what it is, and explained everything to me, I'd still be like, yeah, but that's, like, your perception of, like, because for all
Forever the doubter.
This is the thing, because for all we know, each and every single one of us, once our consciousness leaves our body, might have our own personal afterlife. You know, like our last fleeting moments of brain activity might become our eternal, afterlife. I always like to put this question on people, like, have you ever been in a car accident? You ever been in a car accident, Oscar?
Once.
Okay.
No, twice.
Have you ever been in a car accident that could have been deadly, could have been fatal? Have you ever been walking down the street and something fall right next to you, a tree, or, in
downtown, how they say beware of the icicles in the winter, right from the tall buildings? I had one come not next to me, but like right behind me.
Okay, so imagine...
I've definitely been in car accidents where I should have died.
Right, so imagine this.
I've been shot at.
We had a tire
you
fly at
should
us
have
coming back from
been
New Orleans.
there.
You remember that?
That's right.
All right, so I want
There's always
everyone...
been that near miss.
Everyone to think back on that one point in your life, okay? Now, just imagine for a moment that you died. Right then and there, you died instantly. And in the last few fleeting seconds of your brain being flooded with all sorts of chemicals to ease you into death, you basically imagined that you didn't die. And every single thing that you've experienced in your life up until this point is a complete figment of your dying brain's imagination. And because in an unconscious state of mind, for instance, when you're dreaming, time is irrelevant. Everyone's had a dream where they're, I work in this factory and I'm making these, baby bottles or whatever it is.
It's very specific.
Dreams are fucking weird. There's never a point in that dream where you say, I don't work in a baby bottle factory. I work at Starbucks. Or you're like, forgetting your...
By the way, I'd rather work in a baby factory.
Forgetting your locker combination in high school. Like, I haven't been in high school in 25 years. What kind of crazy dream am I having? But in that dream, you've created your own reality. In a matter of seconds, in reality, in your waking life, you've created this entire narrative in your brain of this completely alternate reality for yourself. So, in essence, in that moment that you are in your dream, that whole entire lifetime of experiences and memories within that dream are manufactured by your brain. So you don't question when you're in that alternate reality in your dream of, this isn't my life. This isn't who I am. This isn't where I am in life. This is, you never, occasionally you'll have a lucid dream, but very rarely do you ever like snap out of it in your dream and go, what? And how many times have you woken up from a dream relieved that the dream wasn't real? Like of somebody dying or something bad happening.
Say something about dreams really
Every
quick?
night.
Yeah.
Well, something kind of what you're talking about. I think maybe sometimes when you have these weird dreams of, wait, I didn't do this, but it feels so natural in the dream, but you wake up and you're like, wait, why would I dream about that? And why would it feel like I've been there or done that before? Who knows if that was a past life and that's chemicals that carried on, or with me, I'm a little weird. I kind of have like a little theory of, a lot of I think when you dream, your body goes to rest, and your soul or whatever it is, it kind of floats in that other dimension where, spirits or any electricity or whatever, we want to call it, could float in that dimension. And that's where you can communicate back and forth.
Well, I can relate to that have you ever had sleep paralysis?
Well, what you were mentioning, like when you wake up right away, sometimes you wake up from your dream, but you're not completely up.
Right. It's like
it's like there.
Well, it's the sensation of falling back into your bed when you're in a falling dream or whatever. Yeah, and it's always that that blurred, that moment of blurred line between reality and dreaming,
still stuck in that
where you almost have to wonder if your subconscious mind is bringing things into it's like Freddy Krueger shit.
I was going to say that.
So that reminds me, and I mean, you just hit a real spot with me. Right after my daughter was born, I lost my job. So here I am. I'm carrying a mortgage. I had some rehab properties.
Hey, Jay, your daughter might not exist. Might be a figment of your imagination.
Why do you sound like that robot from 2001?
So, I'm carrying a mortgage. Carrying a mortgage on a couple rehab properties in the city of Chicago. I have a new daughter. I'm supporting a wife and a newborn. And I lost my job. And I went into a real bad part of my life, a real negative part of my life where I was questioning everything. I was questioning God. I was questioning my own life. I was contemplating suicide. This was a very dark time in my life where I thought I wasn't a man. I couldn't provide. My family's, they're not going to survive. And I started questioning religion. I started questioning God, faith, everything. I was a real bastard to be around. We almost lost our marriage. It was a very violent time for me. And I remember one night in particular, I was sleeping. Me and my wife were in bed, and something ripped me out of my sleep. And it was this growling, snarling, sounded like, I know it sounds crazy, but it sounded like there was a wild hog in my room. And it was just this awful squealing, growling, and I was wide awake. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't in sleep paralysis. I was wide fucking awake. And this thing woke me up, and it sounded like it started at the head of my bed, right next to where I was sleeping. And it made its way across my room and out this little Juliet balcony we had in the top floor of our house, this little mini balcony. It sounded like it went out the window. It was summertime. First thing I thought is something got in the house. It was a real wooded area that we lived in Lisle, Illinois. I thought something got into our house, so I jumped out of bed. I thought it was a raccoon or a possum. I broke through the roof, and I ran into my daughter's room. She was an infant, just newborn, and we're talking a month old. First thing I thought, oh my God, something's attacking the kid. Something's attacking Talia. And I ran into her room, and there was nothing there. I'm looking around the house, the upstairs, nothing there. To this day, I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know if that was the intro to my attachment, if that was Mr. Lincoln making its way. Did I give him a way in? But those dreams, I brought something back. There was something there. Something I welcomed something into my life at that point. With all my negativity and my questioning of faith in God, it was, I don't know if it's a demon or what the hell it was, but it was fucking real. And it wasn't paralysis. It wasn't a dream. It was real.
And
that jogged a memory with me. I think it was at my new place right after I moved in, and I was having a dream. I was standing in my dining room facing the living room, and I had a presence was in the room with me. Like, it was a very real dream. It was like one of those dreams that it's because it's so like plain, like you're not really doing it, you're just kind of like standing around doing nothing, and it was so real. I had a dream about a presence being in the room with me, and I felt it creeping up around me and surrounding me. And I've actually had this feeling, this real actual feeling in haunted places, but I was having this in a dream where my house was, the place I was in was haunted, and the entity was surrounding me, or the energy was surrounding me, and I audibly went and the next thing I know, Catherine is shaking me awake. She's like, what are you okay? Like, I thought you were having a heart attack. And I was like, I was having such a visceral, real feeling of an entity surrounding me that I made that noise in my dream and in reality, to the point where it freaked her out, and she like sprung awake and woke me up. And to this day, I don't know if that was just my mind playing tricks on me, or if there really was an entity entering my body while I was sleeping. You know, if there was something actually literally surrounding me. But it's especially when it comes to that space between awake and sleep, that it can really mess with your brain. And a lot of the stuff that we experience, it makes you question your brain. But I think that's the way this stuff works. The way that the stuff interacts with the human brain is in those in between the cracks, sort of.
So when your guard's down.
Yeah. So it's hard to determine, am I crazy, or am I making this stuff up in my brain, or is the fact that I'm in this in-between stage allowing for the energy to come in and fill in the blanks?
Well, and sometimes as you're younger, you don't even know what crazy is. You just think it's normal, which, you know, a lot of weird things would happen as later on you go on, you would think is crazy, but when you're younger, you don't know, which I've had a lot of weird things happen when I was younger, which was just normal. And as I got older, it's like, okay, am I nuts now?
Have any of you ever had sleep paralysis? Do you know what that is?
I can't say that I have.
What sleep paralysis is when you're asleep, and essentially what it is your mind wakes up before your body does. So you can open your eyes, and that's about it. That's as much control you have over your body. The rest of you is completely
That's really creepy.
Still locked. Yeah, it's only happened to me 2 times.
And
two separate times. And both times that it happened, one time, both, when it happens, you feel like there's people in the room with you.
Yes, and that's exactly.
And everyone will explain it. People who've had it will explain it as a feeling of being held down by something. But what it is, it's your brain fighting to, you know, like when you get a flashlight and you press it right in between the on and off, and it kind of like flickers.
Yeah. Sure.
It's kind of like that, where you're just barely on the cusp of turning the light on. You ever do that when you're a kid and you like kind of fuck with the light switch on the wall to see if you can just get it right in the middle and like just make the lights like kind of flicker.
Sure.
It's like that. It's like when you turn on a fluorescent light and it takes a second for the filament to kick in, and it's like you can see it's on, and it's like this is, and you're just waiting for it, right. And that's what it's like. It's like you're that fluorescent light bulb in a cold room, and the filament is just trying to warm up, and so you're stuck there in between the sleep and awake.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, your brain like your brain is very active.
Yeah, and what your brain does is you're terrified because you don't know what the fuck's going on. So your brain fills in the blanks, and you feel like there's people in the room. There's something there stopping you from moving.
That's how this was.
And that's what.
Although I could move.
That's what it is. It's now when I experienced it, like I was the first time it happened, I didn't know what was happening. The second time it happened, I was fully aware of what was going on. But in that particular instance, I felt like there were people in the room, but I consciously knew that there weren't people in the room. But I'm like, oh my, and I was like, it's kind of like a lot of times I have deja vu. And in my deja vu, I have deja vu about remembering deja vu. Oh, wow. Like I have this like Inception level of deja vu.
Yeah, just ponder on that for a moment.
It's so crazy. Like I'll have deja vu and I'm like, oh yeah, I dreamt about this. Oh, I dreamt about me remembering that I dreamt about this.
Think about elephants.
And now I remember me dreaming about dreaming. And it's like it's ridiculous. But when that happened to me, the first time it happened to me, it was a good like 45 seconds to a minute before I was able to move. And that's a lifetime, when you're what is happening to me. You're a prisoner in your own body. And I felt like there were, and I didn't actually see anything visually because my eyes were like, because you can open your eyes, but you can't move them around or anything. So you just kind of open your eyes, and wherever they're pointing. So I'm just kind of like looking up into space at the ceiling, But I feel like there's people standing around my bed looking at me.
See, with me, I wake up a lot. I have problems sleeping just like Jay. I'm always waking up. My brain's always just active. And, but I'll wake up a million times a night. Boom, boom, up. But sometimes I'll sleep really good and boom, I'll wake up and then I know something's around me. Where I can move fine, but I know there's something in the room. Something's kind of just there. I don't know if it's watching over me, saying hi. It's not. I know it's a good spirit or a good entity or whatever it is. It's not evil, but it's the feeling is scary. If you would know what it is, it's still scary, and to them it might be, ugh. But I mean, I don't like the feeling, but I know it's a good thing, and I don't know if it's someone looking over me. Maybe if it's the time of the night or if they come at a certain time. But I wake up every once in a while, boom, and I know something is in the room. Like, damn, something's here, and it sucks. I got to go back to sleep, and I pretend like I don't know, but I know it's there. I go to sleep. One time, I got held down, kind of what Dave was talking about. I was really in the ghost thing again, taking pictures, investigating places, and it does attach to you. We were probably in a place we shouldn't have been. It might have been the wrong, entity or spirit, or, you never know what you're going to attract. This is when I was younger. I lived with my parents. I went to sleep early. I actually slept on the couch, and I remember going to sleep, and I'm in my dream. The funny thing is, I know I'm dreaming, but I'm upstairs in a church, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, I'm up in a church, and I knew I was on top of a church, and I saw a bell. I'm like, all right, I'm up in a church right now. I look over, and I see a Bible. And I look, and I see a pew, and the pew, like where you kneel down, is down. And I look at the Bible, and I just shake my head like, this is bullshit. It was almost like religion's bullshit. I didn't believe in anything, and I was just kind of almost just disgusted, ugh. And all of a sudden, I started smelling dog shit, and I'm like, ugh. Oh, it stunk really bad. And then I started hearing...
It's never a good sign.
No. And I started hearing flies. Zzz, and then all of a sudden, something grabbed me. And it threw me on the ground. And I was on the ground and looking out a window. Like I saw. And all of a sudden, boom, I woke up from my dream. And I'm laying in my bed. Or, I'm sorry, on the couch I was laying on. I was like, oh my God. That was a crazy dream, and I got up. I lean up, boom! Something grabbed me and threw me back down, and I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I could barely breathe. I'm like, and my dad actually heard me, and he ran over by me. He's like, Joe, you okay? And I saw him grab me, and he's shaking me, and all of a sudden I felt everything release out of me, and I was scared shitless, and I walked away from the ghosting for a very long time.
Let me ask you, Joe.
Has anyone seen a documentary that came out this year called The Nightmare? That is literally about sleep paralysis. Directed by Rodney Asher, who did Room 237, which I think you've seen.
Oh, Room 2, yeah.
Sleep paralysis is the reason why...
About Shining.
Yeah, Shining,
237.
yeah.
Sleep paralysis is the reason why people think they're getting abducted by aliens.
Yes,
they talk about that. They have
because of that.
But wait, I want to ask Joe.
Yeah.
What... Now think back. And be honest.
Yes.
This is the forum, let's be honest. What were you doing prior to that event?
Oh man!
You did
all right,
something,
I didn't want to say anything.
You did something. You did something in particular. This is an open forum. We're using pseudonyms.
All right.
Most people don't know who you are. But you did something prior to that event.
We were being stupid, hanging out.
You were young?
Yes.
You were young. I wasn't there for this.
Yeah.
You were young. You lived on a street called Erie, hence your name, Joe Erie. And you lived by what?
Yeah, cemetery.
A cemetery. Stone throw distance.
Yeah.
What did you do right before that event that you just...
We would hang out in the cemetery a lot, and we switched people's tombstones that night. And I didn't want to mention that. But,
How do you even do that?
We were fucked up when we were younger, you know. I will never do that again.
This is an honest forum. We're men. We're adults now. This was childhood bullshit. But what did you do?
We switched people's tombstones, and that night when I went to sleep, that's what happened.
Now, what do you think of, like, because I was just listening to you tell that story, and I'm like, it sounds like kind of a bullshit story. But what would you say if I told you that, all right, I guess I'm just going to ask you flat out, do you think that was a real entity punishing you for your actions?
I didn't think
or do you think that was your own mind psychologically punishing you for what you did because you knew it was wrong? Everything you experienced was of your own making.
I think subconsciously, like, I really didn't care at that time because I was kind of carefree, careless.
I could vouch for that. I could honestly vouch for Joe.
I didn't think anything of it until the after effect, you know, the aftermath of it. And just like I had another episode where I you know, like when we're younger, you know, we kind of play a lot of things, you know, we don't know who we are, we kind of push away from, you know, like religion or certain things, or, you know, make excuses for certain things. And I kind of had a rougher childhood. I remember when we really got to the ghosts, and we deeply got into it and photographing it, and I'm starting to feel it and this and that, and I really pushed away from religion. And I remember I got in a big fight with my mom, and I grabbed her crucifix at the front of her door. I spit on it and I smashed it, you know, just to piss her off, you know. And
great, now you can't fight vampires.
Well, yeah, you can't do that.
Give him the form. He's being honest.
But basically, and Jay could vouch for this too. You know, I started seeing dark shadows around my house, and I'm like, Jay, I don't know if I'm going crazy, but I'm seeing like dark shadow figures on my walls, and I mean, this would go on for a long time. And all of a sudden, I got really, really sick, and
it's true.
I got what is it? I forget what I even had, but
Sorry, man. You could try to just remember.
I know it was.
I mean, you were down you went through it really.
It was mono. I had mono, like where your immune system's just done.
But I mean, this is real. This is real stuff. Joe was messed up for a long time.
Yeah,
he was out for a long time.
Yeah, I got really sick. I had mono, and it just the more shadows I would see, you know, the sicker I became, and because I got sick, I stopped doing it, and eventually it went away.
After you stopped researching, and doing stupid shit in the cemeteries.
Yeah.
And then he woke up at Robison Woods. So I'm trying to bring it back.
As the producer. So okay. This all comes back around to Robison Woods.
The thing about Robison Woods
was the genesis, the beginning for us.
Yeah, it was.
Which is our first, which is why it's our first like intro and historical researched episode.
Yes.
Right.
So for us, Robison Woods was really the beginning.
If SOS is the zombie genre, Robison Woods is our Night of the Living Dead.
There you go.
You're really good at that.
There you have it. Now,
Can you put analogies to a lot of?
I
remember,
can. I'm good at.
We've taken
visualizing
tours
that.
to Robison Woods. There's pictures on the website, sos-radio.com, that people could see tour results that people outside of SOS captured photographs from Robison Woods. But I remember specifically, Dave, Joe, I don't know if you were there for this, but Dave, you were there. We took a group of supposed psychics, to Robison Woods. And one thing they told us is that all of the activity happens up front. Up front meaning at the marker, 50 yards from busy East River Road, 50 yards from residential homes. All the activity happens up front to deter people from actually going
deeper into
back into Robison Woods, to where the real heart of the haunting resides. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't remember that. I'll say this. I do not look at these things as a conscious physical entity. Like, I don't look at it. I try to. I don't look at. Well, no, I don't look at it as intelligent life. I look at it as I would a wild animal. Like, you want to respect it. You don't want to spook it. You don't want to make it mad. When I go into a haunted place, a lot of times I will talk to whatever's there, but not in the sense that I think I'm talking to a living being or
So then why
a
do it?
disembodied
Why
voice.
talk to it?
For the same reason that if you were walking through the woods and a dog appeared out of nowhere, you would talk to that dog and you'd be like, "Hey,
Or
boy,
positive energy to plants.
hey boy, like, I don't want to hurt you. I'm just here. I'm just walking through the woods." When I walk through the woods looking for mushrooms and stuff, I'll talk to the animals. When I see a deer, like some of the places I go, the deer are so used to people and so used to seeing me in particular. And when I'm in the woods, I'm looking around trees and I'm looking at the ground, looking for mushrooms, and every once in a while I'll look up and there'll be a deer 3 feet from me, just standing there staring at me, and they know that I'm not interested in them because they can tell, they can read my body language that I'm not even paying attention to them.
positive energy and negative energy.
And when
Or
I see
indifferent energy if
and
it's
when I
just
see
energy
when I see a deer, what I'll do is I'll say, "Oh, hey, buddy, I'm just looking for mushrooms. Don't mind me. Keep on doing what you're doing." And I'll go about my business, and the deer will go about their business. And the whole thing is, like, I don't think that it's more about when I talk to the trace energy, when I talk to
What is
an
trace
animal.
energy, Dave?
It's the stuff that we get pictures of, the energy that causes a haunting, if you will. But when I talk to it, it's not in a it's more about calming my own self down. Like I said, it's like when you see a dog that you don't know in a place where if the dog was angry or mad, it could kill you or hurt you very badly. So you talk to it like, "Hey, buddy, how are you? Not gonna hurt you. Just
Don't smell my fear too much.
Just
Right.
walking by. How you doing?" Like, it's that same kind of thing. It's in a sense, it's to relax yourself and put yourself into a state of mind where you're not putting out a negative energy that's going to spook whatever's there, the animal or entity or whatever.
It's interesting to mention animals about Robison Woods. One thing I think we've all experienced at Robison Woods is animals do act kind of strangely while walking the ground.
I've thought of that.
Raccoons, deer,
Right.
possums. And,
And,
for example, so these Native Americans that lived there 200 plus years ago, they revered these animals. For example, a raccoon, seen as curious, might appear to trigger curiosity in a Native American youth, thereby pushing them down a road that he or she might not have
I remember one.
otherwise traveled. Or, for a tribal chief, like Chief Chi-Chi-Pinkwai or Winking Eye, of contemplating warfare or violence, a deer, which is commonly seen and they act very strangely at Robin, very, very used to humans.
Well, this is the
A
thing.
deer appears, maybe if that tribal chief was contemplating violence or warfare, that deer might appear to give to exude the energy of compassion, to be compassionate, peaceful, gentle, caring, and kind.
I'm going to get real Scully on you right here, right now.
Okay.
Because there was a time we were there, and we'd be by the stones, and I'm sure you remember this.
Now, when you say stones, we'd be by
the marker, and we'd hear things in the woods around us, and they were animals. They were animals that were either deer or raccoon or skunks. Like there were several times we were in there, and we'd hear things around us.
Absolutely.
I remember one night in particular, I was standing on the east side of the stone, taking photographs, and come out of the woods is a skunk, just kind of like ambled right up to the other side of the stone from where I was standing, like I wasn't even there. And I just kind of like watched it for a second, and then I kind of like backed away so it wouldn't get... Because the last thing you want to do when a skunk doesn't know you're there is scare the shit out of it.
So it's interesting you mentioned a skunk, because according to Native American lore, if warfare was unavoidable between native tribes, a skunk as a symbol, as a spiritual guide would appear, as a symbol of strength and perseverance. In warfare.
All right, but besides all of that mumbo jumbo, this is where I'm going to get real Scully on your ass.
You know, Dana was never this mean to Mulder.
Listen,
I want to put that out.
This is where I'm going to get Scully on your ass. Somebody goes there every day and dumps a shit ton of bread and food and stuff all over that area for the animals to eat.
Granted, is it human intervention, or is it the reverence that the Native Americans bestowed upon these creatures?
I'm going to say one thing.
It's the animals in those woods are constantly being fed by somebody that comes there. So when they see people, they automatically say, "Oh, free meal, I'm going to go towards that." They're not afraid of people for that reason.
It could be one or the other, absolutely.
So we always see a lot of animals over there. They come right up to you. They're really friendly, right? What happened that night where we walked in and it's get the fuck out of here now?
Tell us
this
about
is
it.
the
not belong here.
This is the thing
leave
that's
now.
total.
This is evil. Leave like that.
So this is the thing that's totally different from Robison Woods, which I would call a peaceful haunting. Robison Woods, more often than not, when you go in there, it's creepy. And you know, it's a little uneasy, but it never feels unwelcoming.
Overall, right.
But when you go to Bachelor's Grove, you can stand in the confines of Bachelor's Grove and not hear you won't see a bird in the trees. You won't hear a cricket in the cemetery.
Bachelor's Grove is arguably the most haunted cemetery in the world.
There's something
that's going to be covered in another podcast, but Dave is correct. The animals,
and that's the
wildlife does definitely.
My friend Mike, Tattoo Mike, with the tattoos all over him, he wanted to go to Robinson. He kept bothering me to go to Bachelor's Grove. He was like, "I want to go to Bachelor's Grove. I want to go to Bachelor's Grove." I'm like, fine. So I took him down there one day. It was last year before Halloween, and we went down there. And it was during the day, so it wasn't like there was anything crazy going on, and there were a few people around or whatever. But that's one of the things he noticed is one of the things that he mentioned without even really me talking about it.
Really silent.
Yeah, it's just in the cemetery. There's obviously a reason that animals avoid it,
and it's in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
The weird thing is the air. It even feels thinner. It's just a dead silence.
Bachelor's Grove is a world unto its own, which will be covered in another podcast.
But I'm just mentioning it for the contrast.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
No animals.
Robinson Woods is like a Disney movie where bluebirds sit on your shoulder and bunny rabbits sing and all that stuff.
Yes. And they do your chores, and the animals do your chores. However,
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead.
Mention the contrast, and Joe has.
But I have to call bullshit on your magic, like Native American animal spirit animals, because the
fact remains the same that the Native Americans did revere certain animals, and certain animals signified certain things during different important times of their life.
Yeah, you know what's great is when you're packing up your van at 2 o'clock in the morning to drive to Florida for 1,200 miles, and an owl is like 30 feet away in a tree just hooting at you.
And what does that mean?
That means you're probably going to die. I'm
Joe.
pretty sure that means you're going to die.
Hey, okay, fine. Both arguments told. I want to have a Scully type question for you. Real quick. The airplane thing that you mentioned earlier, way earlier,
yes.
about how it's flight path?
Constantly.
How low were they flying?
I would say they're probably at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, I think
is that a point of reference that a lot of people say to excuse the stuff that happens in Robison Woods?
Some people claim that because that flight path happens to be so low, continually. Mm-hmm. I mean, O'Hare is the most busy airport
I was curious if it was
in the world.
Both that low, and second, if it a lot of complaints came from.
They do complaints. You want to talk about complaints? The city or county, excuse me, but they actually spent money to soundproof people's homes in that immediate vicinity.
Okay.
My grandfather's home was one of them. At the city's cost. That's how low these planes fly and how often and how loud. So some people claim, and I'm not saying that it's true, but some people claim that because of this direct flight path that Robison Woods lies under, this constant rumbling, the shaking, and we've all been there as members of SOS. It's deafening.
And I think the plane
peacefully.
I think at certain times of the day or certain days or certain parts of the week or whatever, the planes fly on different flight paths and different altitudes and stuff like that. So sometimes it'll be like you can't hear yourself think.
Exactly.
And other times it's just kind of more innocuous,
Okay, just wanted to ask because good to ask.
Now,
but I personally think that's a completely horseshit theory.
It's just some theory that some people say. Joe Erie had a particular experience at Robison Woods Indian Burial Ground at Lawrence and East River. I was wondering if maybe you would tell us that story. I think I was involved in that story. And this is one of those times when Robison Woods wasn't so Cinderella-esque with birds sitting on your shoulder doing your chores for you.
Yeah.
This is one time when Robison Woods actually turned a little bit sinister. Joe, would you mind expanding on that?
Yeah, we would go to Robison Woods a lot. And, every once in a while we'd get some nice photos. We'd feel things here and there. Some days we wouldn't feel anything. Every once in a while we would feel something. All right, let's snap some pictures. We got stuff. This night, we went in just like a normal night. And as soon as we parked, we just felt, man, I don't know. It's just strange.
Something's wrong.
And we got out. And as we kept on creeping in, it was, you better get out of here. And Jay really don't feel too much. He felt something. I just felt sick to my stomach. Just like, it was just death, like putrid. Like, get the fuck out of here. You do not belong here. Leave now. Like, it's just a feeling that you do not want to have. Your body's almost just frozen and just sick. It's like, oh, and we did not feel right. I don't know. I did not like that night, and I sensed evil. Whatever it was evil. And
tell us about that night.
So we walked in, all having these bad feelings, and I felt everything around. We saw shadows, just moving around. I started taking all these pictures. All of a sudden, I look at Jay, and as people are just leaving already because they're like, "We need to get out of here now."
So there was a group of us,
and I start taking pictures, and like just all around. I look at Jay. I see something, a black shadow figure creeping behind him, and I snapped a couple photos. I'm like, Jay, and we just ran out of there. And I forgot when we got developed the next day or day after, whatever. We had like 2 rolls of film. All the photos had something, and the photo of Jay had stuff around him, which made it, it was proof that because of what I saw, we actually got a photo of it, and it just. you question. I told him, Jay, I see something right by you. We never really saw anything. We would feel, but we actually saw. Well, I saw that, and I snapped a photo of it, and we got confirmation.
Yeah.
Kids, ask your parents what a photo lab is and development is.
It's not digital.
No,
Yeah.
that's what film is, or Jewel Osco photos.
So real quick, let's talk about the night.
Yeah, we never really took a lot of pictures in the digital age.
No,
of
we
cameras.
didn't.
No.
This was simple, 35 millimeter, about 800 speed, disposable cameras. Is
And
where
when I
we
say
had
that
our
to
best
people,
results.
That's one of the things that convinces people more when I tell them the much more now, relic, old-fashioned ways we took it. And I'm like, yeah, there's no tampering. You can't
They say
mess
it's
with
better.
that. No, we couldn't mess with that then, and we don't know how today either. And it's not digital at all. And people are like, wow, that's because it's hard for people to. People are very cynical.
Digital's so easily faked.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it really is.
Yeah, personally, I never had any luck with it.
Yeah, I mean, to be
I
taken on.
really think it has something to do with those fixed focus lenses.
Well, let's talk about light spectrums. Well, let's talk about where we see versus what the camera sees.
Well, there's. Have you ever taken one of those color things? Like there's color tests on Facebook where they'll give you it's basically like it looks like
we've seen these.
It looks like a rainbow on the page, and you're supposed to see how many different colors you can identify in there. And if you can see, there's like 36 of them, and it's just slightly different shades of yellow, slightly different shades of orange, slightly different shades of red all the way through. And if you can see the separation between them, like some people can see. There's certain people have certain amounts of rods and cones in their eyes. So some people can see some spectrums, some people can't see some spectrums. So some people only will see all 36 of the spectrums in there. Some people will only see 30 of them. Some people only see 20. Some people only see 12. So to what looks like a rainbow of 36 different slices to one person might look like just like one of those things you'd see on your TV screen when the picture's out, just the
Kids,
stand
ask your
by.
parents what a time code is after TV broadcast is done. That's also.
But
Didn't have an Indian on there.
the thing is that the human eye can only see so many spectrums of light. We can't see ultraviolet. We can't see infrared. We can't see gamma rays. We can't see a whole bunch of different waves.
That's right.
Wavelengths.
It doesn't mean they don't exist.
Of light, right?
Yeah.
Like a hawk, for instance, might be able to see 10 times as many colors and light waves that a human can. A dog might see half of the spectrum of light that we do. And it's been proven that there's different types of eyes and different types of people and different rods and cones and stuff. My one of my nephews has actually got albinism, and he's always going to have sight problems because of that, because there's no pigment in his eyes. So the camera doesn't
discriminate.
If you want to see what I'm talking about, go into different parts of your house where there's like a fluorescent light, where there's a table lamp, where there's the ceiling light, and take pictures of your hand. Take pictures of a common whatever thing, and what you're going to see without the flash on, what you're going to see is under fluorescent light everything looks sickly green.
That's right.
What you're going to see is under your regular old desk lamp everything looks sickly yellow and orange, because that's what the real spectrum of light is that you're seeing. And oftentimes I wonder about my pets. Like, are they constantly living in a cave? Like, is it just constantly drab and gross? Is everything just like sepia saturated gross light for them all the time? Because the way we perceive, just like reality in general, the way we perceive light and the way we perceive the things that we see every day are not really how they appear to other animals, to other things.
So what does that mean to SOS? What that means is entire outlook.
What not only is it a scientifically proven fact, but we can see things, or the camera can see things that we cannot. So camera and video and audio can pick up different wavelengths of light and even different wavelengths of motion. Like, I mean, if something was moving at the speed of light, you wouldn't be able to see it. But a camera might be able to catch that instant that it slips by, And if you saw the movie Interstellar, did you see that movie?
Yes, I did.
I'm sure.
That really gets into the theory of relativity and makes you really think, because that whole thing about gravity changing time and how it moves is real. That's a real thing. On other planets, time moves differently than it does here on Earth.
Sure. So how does that relate to what we're experiencing at Robison Woods?
It's funny because we're asking for that going into...
Well, because
the
this
thing
is
is
into an interesting area. If you look at sos-radio.com, photos and videos, right? Shameless plug. But you go down 3 rows, second from the left, we have something that appears to be the visage of a gray alien. And I challenge everybody who's listening to this, go to that website, check out that photo, and tell me that it's not a gray alien. And we have caught light anomalies at Robison Woods that appear to be mathematical in nature, perfectly segmented crescent shapes, segmented into 4 equal distinct shapes.
It was 5, wasn't it? I don't remember. We blew it up.
Was 4. It was 4. Which also coincide same night as this photo that was captured that appears to be the visage of a gray alien.
Yeah,
How does that...
But the thing, like, I don't like to get into telling people what the mist looks like, because it's
How about
completely
what people
subjective.
commonly see in this photograph appears to be what people commonly say appears to be the outline, the facial features of a gray alien, with captured photographs of crescent light shapes, perfectly segmented, mathematically segmented, perfect shapes, perfect equal shapes, in the middle of the dark woods, where there's no lights, no street lights, no cars, no houses. Take a photo taken in the immeasurably dark woods. What does that mean?
But you know what?
Going on that theory that you're just saying.
You know what I'm thinking of right now, and this is the Scully coming out of me again. Those crescent lights, and I don't know why this never occurred to me before. You're talking about seeing 4 crescent lights reflecting back at you. You ever shown a light out into a field in the dark on a summer night and
Sure.
see all the little green eyes looking back at you?
You know as
Spiders.
well as I do, those were not deer, spiders, skunks. They were.
But it would
midair.
it would fit with, because spiders have 4 primary eyes, and they all reflect light. So that is a possibility. I'd have to look at the picture. I haven't looked at those pictures in 10 years, so I'd have to look at them again to see for sure.
They were perfectly suspended above.
But I'm not gonna go into Crazy Town and say that this stuff has anything to do with aliens and interdimensional beings.
You cannot deny that photo.
I will
I'm not
say
saying it is or is it.
You cannot deny
but
that photo.
The Indians really were into extraterrestrials. The star people. There is a lot of photos we do have that makes you think.
But
I'm not saying it is or it isn't.
I'm going to say this:
we had a lot of photos there.
The reason
it is an Indian burial ground.
The reason that gray alien thing is such a common visage in paranormal and stuff is because it's a fetal human. It literally looks like a fetus of a human being, and it's a very common image throughout.
So is this collective unconsciousness?
I think it's kind of
visible.
I think it's kind of a default sort of image. It's like a stock photo that's in everyone's brain.
So then, how did that image become burned into the negative of our film?
I don't think
for knowing that picture.
I don't think it's burned into the negative of the film. I think there's just a shape on the film, and that's what you're determining it to be. I don't think that that's actually what it is.
A lot of the photos too. I mean, because simulacra, it's what you make of it, right?
Distinct patterns and random shapes.
You can look at a cloud and see Godzilla, or
Sure.
I mean, we've all seen the angel cloud on Facebook and stuff. It's like,
Although you can
Can you scroll up to that picture?
So of course, we're looking at sos-radio.com photos and videos.
Chicago's own. Click on the Bill and Brian photo.
So first row, second from the left, is a picture of our deceased friend, William Mann, and our friend Brian Compton. Robison Woods in the Bail Ground.
This particular night, it was just me and them, and so Brian and Bill on an Indian burial ground decided to go urinate.
Yep, this is true.
10 feet away from the burial stone.
Yep.
And I'm like, guys, it's probably not a great idea to be urinating on an Indian burial ground if you've ever seen any movie.
And what happened when we took the photo of them walking back from just zipping up in the pants?
And this is the thing, I said to them, I'm always taking pictures and stuff, and I said to them, you guys aren't, when these pictures come back, there's going to be stuff hanging around you.
And sure enough,
this one picture where there's this rounded mist hanging over,
with both of them in the photograph, hanging mostly over Bill, who is deceased now, and Brian. It was the only picture I got of anything paranormal that night. It was also the only picture I got of them standing next to each other that night. Right. That's right. So what does that mean? What does that tell us?
That tells us that I don't know. Is it possible that I'm projecting this stuff, or I'm controlling
because
it in some way?
Watch what's going to appear above your head.
And this is the thing: it's hard to say whether or not this stuff is conscious in an intelligent way.
It's a whole nother conversation, right?
Right.
And it is, because a lot of times I feel it. A few times I took photos and I got something, but a lot of times I feel it, so I take a picture randomly, but maybe I can project it. Who knows?
Yeah,
maybe
we don't
he's
know.
onto something.
As Dave says, the only thing we know is that we don't know.
Yeah, the only thing that we can be 100% certain of is we don't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick before we bring this to an end, Robison Wood is just it just leads to all sorts of conversation. But again, back to the website, photos video page, second row, third from the left. This is an Indian burial ground. This is an Indian burial ground, and we have the picture of a 1934 Indian head nickel.
Technically a buffalo nickel, but you can call it
buffalo nickel.
Indian head or buffalo.
Dave's always here to put me in place.
Colloquial term.
Profiles of the trace energy or the ghost that we captured on that particular night versus or compared to the profile of that 1934 buffalo nickel is pretty uncanny.
Have you ever been able to find a picture of Alexander Robinson, like a decent picture of him, to see what he looks like? Also, that could very easily be a picture of Chaz Palminteri.
But let's talk about.
I just saw a movie with him in it.
Let's talk about that photo. That photo. I mean, the profiles: Indian head nickel, Indian burial ground. What do you have to say about that? I mean, the profile, the likeliness, the similarity is just.
Explain yourself.
You can't deny the similarity.
Yeah, but the only thing that you're really seeing definition of there is maybe the lips. I mean, the rest of it's
forehead, nose. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah. I don't get too like I said, I don't get too much into the shapes that you see in things. It's like it's fun to recognize them, but I don't put any stock in it.
If anything, we should let the audience decide. That's why we're
there you go.
I don't
look for yourselves. I mean, really, people listening to this podcast, check out that photo.
Go to our demon picture, the Bachelor's Grove picture, our flagship picture.
It is a flagship.
This is our flagship picture.
It is our flagship.
I love that one.
The very bottom row.
Best for last.
To the right. Best for last. Yeah, this is our flagship.
Okay, so
photo.
stare at that picture.
I can't stare. It freaks me out.
I can.
So stare at the picture. Now, I'm just gonna say various things. Okay, we all see the demon, the skull, the rib cage, holding back all his friends.
The faces. Yeah.
Okay, now look at the bull skull. You see the bull skull
Here.
Yeah, those are the horns.
Yep.
And okay, so you see a bull skull. Do you see a panda bear?
Everything, yes, simulacra.
Do you see a ferret?
As Joe Erie mentioned, simulacra.
Do you see the ferret?
Distinct patterns and random images, but that doesn't negate the fact.
I'm gonna point
that
this.
something was there.
But I'm gonna point this out. I'm gonna point this out to you right now. Nose, eyes, ears, face.
See that I don't see, but.
You don't see the panda bear?
No one sees the panda bear.
Again,
it's definitely a panda bear.
Take a look at the sos-radio.com website. See what you think yourself. Robinson Woods haunting. Does it come from? I mean, collectively, guys. Does the Robinson Wood haunting come from the injustices that were done to Chief Chichipinque, Winking Eye, Chief Alexander Robinson? Does it come from the fact that Robinson Woods lies directly beneath an O'Hare flight path? Does it come from the horrible crimes?
I think it's
that were committed or brought to the Robinson Woods confines during the Peterson-Schuessler murders. Where does this come from?
If I were to choose a specific thing, I would say it probably has something more to do with the murders and the house burning down than anything else.
Okay. And there's no right or wrong answer.
But this is.
I think it's more fun asking the question.
Well, this is one of the theories that we'll eventually elaborate on a little bit more. But I can walk through a funeral home, all right, and I've actually had permission to walk through funeral homes before, and just walking through the room where they hold the funerals and the wakes and stuff. By the time I get to the end of the room, I am nearly breaking down. Like, I'm completely flooded with all sorts of energy. I'm tearing up. I'm weak. I'm sad. And I don't believe that what I'm feeling there is dead people. I don't think it has anything to do with the people that are dead. I think it has everything to do with all the sorrow and sadness that has been felt in that room.
Collective energy. Collective emotion.
There's three distinct things that I believe. Like, I used to say it's probably one of these three things, but now I think it's all of these three things, or possibly a combination. So the energy that we're seeing in these pictures, the stuff that you can go out and get pictures of yourself, it is either energy from living people that have passed away, and this is their residual energy left over. That's one thing it could be. Two, it is a collective energy of people living and possibly dead. Whenever you are at a party or in a room and you're conversing and having fun and whatever, there's all this electrochemical information jumping around your body, and your brain is putting off all these, firing off all these neurons and all this electrochemical energy. And some of that leaves your body. And is it possible that some of that energy can kind of amass like hair in your drain, if you will? And like maybe one strand of hair here and there doesn't do anything, but when you get a big old clump of it, it clogs up your drain. And is that what we're seeing? Is that what we're seeing? Is this massive hair from 1,000 different people coming together as a collective energy, or is it a life form that doesn't have a physical body? Is it some sort of electrochemical form of life, which I just saw an article a few weeks ago about the scientists have actually discovered an organism that is it's an electrical based organism that feeds off of electricity. So I believe that there's a few different factors that have to do with it, and specifically in cemeteries and things like that. Are they haunted because of the dead people there, or are they haunted because of all the living people that felt sadness there?
The emotions.
Yeah, because when I go into a movie theater, old movie theater, or like a place that used to be a real theater, a lot of restaurants, bars, it seems like there's so many places like that that are haunted. And I don't think it's always because somebody got murdered on the floor, or there was a fire and somebody died, or somebody used to live upstairs and they died of cancer, or whatever it is.
Even antiques, you know.
Yeah.
I get it every once in a while.
Well, yeah, antique store. Oh, there's my friend Bruce owns an antique store. His family owns it. It's called Lazy Dog Antiques, I think. Or no, I'm thinking of a different. No, it's called Good Old Days. It's one of those on Belmont, like down there. If you go down Belmont,
there's quite a few.
And his shop's like the guy shop. It's got like all the old beer signs and stuff like that. So occasionally I'll find stuff at a garage sale or laying in the alley or whatever, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder if Bruce will like it, and I'll take it over there for him. Mm-hmm. And there was I was there with Catherine, my girlfriend, a few months ago, and I had been there before, but I had never really noticed. Like, we went upstairs, and immediately going upstairs, I'm like, oh, Jesus, there's definitely something going on here. This is pretty crazy. And by the time I got up the stairs, I was like, ugh, like my eyes were tearing up and stuff. So when I came back down, I said to Bruce, I'm like, this place is haunted, isn't it? And he's like, well, yeah, kind of, yeah. and then he... we were like, all right, we'll see you later. And as we were walking out, he kind of like came out and chased me, and we talked about it for like a good 10 or 15 minutes. That he, it's always been rumored, and there's definitely something there. Sure. And it's definitely strong. But it's an antique store, but it also used to be a house. So, what are you,
where's it coming from?
And the thing is that, like, you can point at any given place in this city, right now, in this garage.
In any city.
This garage, we're probably within 500 feet of a haunting right now. And half the creepy feelings that we're feeling creeping up and down our spines while we're talking about all this stuff
right now,
could very well be something that we've called over from a few houses down or whatever.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay, guided in here. I was going to blame Joe, but I wasn't sure.
But like I said, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I can only speculate and theorize and stuff. But
what we have experienced at this particular location.
Yeah, I do. But I'm not going to assign attributes to an abstract thing that